Today, we're going to talk about project planning for your course. This is how to plan your course. Now, we're not talking about how to do all the analysis. We already covered that in another video. This one is really about how to break down all of the tasks that need to be done and just do them. Now, obviously, project planning is going to depend very much on how complex or how simple your project is. It will also change based on how much help you have going on. And hopefully you're thinking about working with an iterative process where you release something that's not all the way ready. And then when I say all the way ready, it's ready as far as content is concerned, but the materials may not be pretty or finalized, like you're just testing. You want to go in with this experimental approach that your first materials are just testing. So let's look at some of the ways that we can plan projects. And these, and I'm going to start with the simple and then go to the most complex. So I'm just going to give a few examples. There's lots of online tools there, but I'm just going to show some of the ones that I like. The very first thing that we need to do before we start planning our project is to figure out all the things that we need to do. Now, for this reason, it is very helpful to do all of your analysis, to figure out like who your audience is, what your objectives are going to be, and how you're going to do your course. So once you have that course outlined, now you can create your to-do list. Now you can do this while you're building your audience, and you can do this while you're selling that course, while you're selling that beta launch or that pilot, or if you're not selling it, while you're getting people to go through that beta launch or proof of concept. But I do this by looking at my design. This is one of my design documents. I have two, and I will go through this design document and pull out any of the things that are in here. Now, this is just an empty template. It doesn't have anything in it. But for instance, I'm going to start my course with a hook in order to gain attention. So if I start with a story, I might want to make sure that story is as good as possible. So I will put it on my to-do list. So here I've completed a few items on a to-do list in order to use them for this example, but this is kind of what it looks like. So I'll go through this design and I'll go, okay, so I need a story for this. I need some examples for this one, stories, examples, or graphic illustrations. I might need a worksheet. So, I'll go through that design and say, okay, here are all the things that I need to put, down on some, project management software or some project management tool in order to make sure that it gets done. Now, I really am not a fan of a to-do list other than to capture everything. It doesn't stay here for long. I go for my to-do list and then I move it into another tool. For instance, if we are talking about a simple project, so I will move it into another tool. So if we are talking about a simple project that I'm just doing on my own, like a mini course or maybe a 3-day challenge or something like that, I will put those to-dos into my calendar. So we have here the opening story about Joan of Arc. So I might say, well, I have some time on Monday morning. Let's see, I should be home by 10. So write opening story or challenge. Let's assume it's a challenge. And then I like to make sure everything that I'm doing for this particular project is all the same colors. That way I can easily see where my tasks for that are spread out. So I'm going to give myself 1 hour to write that opening story. Now, it may not take 1 hour for you to do a task. You could maybe do 2 tasks, or you could maybe make it half an hour, but you write that down on your calendar and then you can get rid of your to-do list after you finish all the rest of them. And then here we have, let me just do this right here. You want to put the details for that into the description. Joan of Arc, where she overcame her fear. So, and then, so here we want to have 3 examples of people who overcame fear. And I thought of 3 of them while I was writing my outline. Now, I don't necessarily have to think of them here. I can just say I want some examples or 3 examples or 3 to 5 examples. And so my task could be finding the 3 to 5 examples, as well as putting together whatever visuals I might need to make them understood. If I'm going to talk about this fictional person, Grace Masters, these are all fictional, If I talk about this fictional person, Grace Masters, who hid her artwork, then I might want to have pictures of that artwork if those are available to kind of show like, look at this beautiful stuff, and she hid it away. So I will go ahead and I'll put it on my calendar here. This works well. Create 3 examples. Now I don't need to put a whole lot more in here. Once I have the right color in here, I know what it's for, so that makes it much easier. And then I can put the description. I'll just paste that in here. 3 examples of people who failed to overcome their fear. So now I have those particular things on my calendar. And as I go through my to-do list, I'll just take care of my to-do list and I won't save it. So now I have the stuff on my to-do list. I have my things on my calendar, and I'm just going to get everything done on time by looking at the items on my calendar. In addition to the content I'm going to put in here, I might put in things like create a Facebook page, or create marketing materials, or create email that goes out to my existing people. So all of that stuff will end up on this list, and then I just need to keep up with my calendar and I'm good to go. Oh, by the way, when I put things on my calendar, I give myself a limited amount of time to get them done. And then, but I try to over budget on those times, so allow myself a little bit of margin. And so if it takes me, if I give myself 1 hour to complete a task and it takes me 45 minutes, now I've got that extra 15 minutes margin in my day. That's kind of how all my calendar is. So it looks really packed, but I get little bits of time in between everything. All right. So let's move on to the other thing that we can do for a project management tool. And let's see if this will work. Okay. So the other thing that I'll do is I will sometimes create a task list in a spreadsheet, and I like to keep track of the numbers of my tasks. And generally I number them from 1 to whatever. And then I like to have all these different numbering things so I can refer to those tasks later. Like if I want to put in my calendar, if I want to use this with a calendar, I can just put task number 12, because you can use this with a calendar if you want. If you're the type of person who likes to cross things off your list, this might be a better tool for you. So I will put down a description of the task, when it's due by, and about the estimated time that I think it's going to take. This lets me see all the tasks that need to be done module by module. When things get a little more complex, I like to use this so I can keep track of it. This is also very handy if I'm going to work on one module and deliver it, and then work on the next module and deliver it. And sometimes those dates might overlap. Like while I'm delivering module 1, I might be working on module 2. And then while I'm doing module 2, I may be receiving feedback for module 1 as well as planning for module 3. So those dates can overlap a little bit, and this can be helpful. I've actually created kind of a chart here where I can say week 1, week 2, and I can then create just fills in here. So I'm like, in week 1, I'm working on all of these. And then week 2, I'm working on these. And then what can happen sometimes is as I'm seeing some of these, I can see where there's overlap and go, okay, maybe this week it's too heavy because I have too many tasks on it. Hopefully that's clear for you. I don't do that very often. I do that when a task gets a little bit more complicated and I'm trying to roll some things out while I'm doing one thing and while I'm delivering other stuff. This helps me figure out like, how much stuff am I putting in there, and the estimated hours can help with that. So that is one way of actually like planning your stuff, and sometimes maybe changing your plans and saying, maybe I put too much stuff in this week that I just can't fit it. But again, if you're working with your calendar, that can also kind of help you see that you don't have enough time for all the stuff that you're planning, and maybe you need to set more reasonable expectations, or maybe you're trying to be too perfectionistic with your course items. So that is another tool that I use very frequently. And then, and of course, this is Google Spreadsheets or Google Sheets. You can use Microsoft Excel also if you prefer that. And of course, this is Google Calendar, but you can use Outlook or whatever calendar program you want to also. And you can create other calendars. I like to have everything on the same one so I can see it all at once. All right, this tool is very, very excellent. This is Trello. It works very similar to other tools that are like it, like ClickUp or Asana, or from what I've heard about Slack. This is a great tool for managing the tasks that are going on, and it has an added advantage in that there's more room on each task to create more communication. So if it's just you creating something, you can put, or tell that Joan of Arc story that does this, because you kind of know what you're doing and why you're telling that story. So it's very, very easy. But if you have tasks that you're giving to other people, then it's really helpful to say, to put more content in here. So you might have in here review speaking notes for impact, attention, cognitive load discovery. Now that's not something that you might easily give to somebody else, but if you have somebody who is competent with instructional design, then you can put that stuff in here. And if you want to give them a little bit of tips in here, you can have some tips here, like the tips could be, as you look at attention, notice or ensure that the student is only has one thing to view at a time. So you can put notes in here. So this is really helpful for assigning it to someone else. And then you can actually add people to these cards and assign it to them. So like if I wanted to send this to my sister Karen and make sure that she was reviewing this, I might assign this to her and give the right level of communication for her. I could even maybe explain what that done product needs to look like. In some cases, you may want to tell them how that particular item that they're working on is going to be used. So not just a story of Joan of Arc and how she overcame fear. You might say, I want to tell the story of Joan of Arc and how she overcame fear so that the listeners can empathize and maybe recognize their own times when they've maybe had to overcome fear and maybe what held them back. So specifically address the barriers that she felt. Or you may want to also, for this Joan of Arc story, you may want to put in some links, hyperlinks to where that particular story details are kept so that the person who's writing this can look at those particular details. So that is how I would use Trello or other tools like Asana or ClickUp in order to communicate deadlines and when things need to be done. Now, tools like this are a little bit more complicated, but if you're going to have team members help you, it's worth the initial investment to figure out how these tools work so that you can get your course done in more time. So doing the first module could take a little bit more time than it would typically if it was just you when you're working with a team. But then as you go into other courses and as you get other modules done, it's actually going to get faster. So I hope this project management tips and stuff that are in here are really helpful. Remember that you want to not make it about the project management. Don't make it about the to-do tool. It's really more important that you're focused on what needs to be done and making sure that you're taking action and getting that stuff done. So I hope this helps. I hope you have a beautiful day and take care.